Ah, you said nothing. When they expected a reaction, you gave them silence. When they pushed, you didn't push back. And somehow, that felt like losing. We live in a world that rewards noise. The loudest voice in the room gets attention. The most dramatic response gets the most engagement. So when you choose to stay quiet, to turn inward, to focus only on yourself, it feels wrong. It feels like retreat, like weakness. But what if silence was never weakness? What if withdrawing from the chaos was the most powerful move you could make? 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world chose silence. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he understood something most people never do. His name was Marcus Aurelius. Emperor of Rome, commander of the greatest military force the ancient world had ever known. A man who could order the execution of thousands with a single word. And yet, he spent his private hours writing to himself. Not to be remembered, not to be published, just to keep his own mind clean and honest. What we now call the Meditations was never meant to be read by anyone else. It was a personal journal, a private discipline. Marcus talking to Marcus. He ruled during plague, war, political betrayal, and personal grief. He lost children. He was surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Every day, the world demanded his attention, his reaction, his energy. And every day, he made the same choice. To go inward first, to master himself before he tried to lead others. That choice, that quiet, invisible discipline, is what made him one of the most admired figures in all of human history. The Stoics had a concept they called the Inner Citadel. Imagine a fortress built entirely inside your own mind. No walls that enemies can breach, no gates that circumstances can force open. A place of absolute calm, accessible only to you, always. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the foundation of Stoic silence. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say, but the silence of someone who has learned what is worth saying, and, more importantly, what is not. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, put it plainly in the Enchiridion. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. This is the dichotomy of control. The absolute bedrock of Stoic philosophy. There are things within your power, your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your efforts. And there are things outside your power, other people's opinions, their behavior, outcomes you cannot control. The moment you stop spending energy on the second category, the moment you truly withdraw your attention from what you cannot change, something extraordinary happens. All that energy flows back into you, into what you can actually build, into who you are actually becoming. Seneca wrote in one of his letters to Lucilius, "Retire into yourself as much as you can, not as an escape, as a return." Here is where we have to be honest. This is hard. Genuinely hard. We are wired for social comparison. Humans evolved in tribes where reputation meant survival. The need to respond, to defend yourself, to be seen and validated, that is not weakness. That is ancient biology. And modern life amplifies every single one of those impulses. Your phone delivers 100 small provocations every day. Someone says something cutting. A comment dismisses your work. A person you respected betrays your trust. And every instinct in you screams, respond. React, fight back, prove them wrong. To stay silent in that moment, to turn your attention inward instead of outward, requires you to act against your own nervous system. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He wrote to himself repeatedly, obsessively, because he needed the reminder. Because even as emperor, even as a trained philosopher, the pull toward reaction never fully disappeared. You are not failing by finding this difficult. You are engaging with one of the deepest challenges of being human. So how do you actually practice this? The Stoics were not theorists, they were practical. They gave themselves daily disciplines, daily exercises. Here are the ones that work. The first is the morning anchor. Before you touch your phone, before you check messages, before you let the world in, take 5 minutes and ask yourself one question. What is within my control today? Write it down if you need to. Say it out loud. Let that question set the frame for everything that follows. You are training your attention to go inward before it goes outward. This single habit changes the architecture of your day. The second is the pause before response. When something provokes you, a message, a comment, a situation, do not respond immediately. Give yourself a gap, even 30 seconds. In that gap, ask, is this within my control? Is my response going to serve me or just satisfy a reflex? Most of what we say in anger, in defensiveness, in the need to prove ourselves, serves nothing. The Stoics called this choosing your response rather than having it triggered. That pause is where your power lives. The third is radical reduction. Choose one area of your life where you have been looking outward for validation. A project, a relationship, a creative pursuit. And for 30 days, go silent about it. Stop announcing it. Stop seeking feedback. Stop explaining yourself. Just do the work. In private, in silence, in full focus. Watch what happens to the quality of your output when there is no audience to perform for. Watch what happens to your motivation when it has to come entirely from within. And the fourth is the evening accounting. Before sleep, Seneca practiced a nightly review. He asked himself 3 questions. Where did I give my attention today to things I cannot control? Where did I react when I could have been still? What can I do differently tomorrow? Not judgment, just honest accounting. The goal is not perfection, the goal is awareness. Awareness is the beginning of every transformation. Imagine who you become after 6 months of this practice. Not the person who argues every point, but the person whose silence carries weight. Not the person who needs everyone to know what they are building, but the person who simply builds, and one day the result speaks for itself. Not the person who is shaken by every opinion, every setback, every shift in the wind, but the person who has built something internal that cannot be moved. People will notice something different about you. They will not always be able to name it, but they will feel it, a kind of stillness, a groundedness, an ease that doesn't come from having easy circumstances, but from having done the internal work. That is the Stoic promise. Not that life becomes simpler, but that you become stronger than whatever life brings. The Stoics believed something that cuts against almost everything modern culture teaches. They believed that the examined life, the life turned inward, is not a retreat from the world. It is the only way to truly act in the world, because the person who has not examined themselves is not free. They are driven by impulse, by reaction, by the opinions of others. They are a leaf in the wind of circumstance. But the person who has gone inward, who knows what they value, what they fear, what they can and cannot control, that person moves through the world with intention. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire from that place. Epictetus taught philosophy from slavery to that place. Seneca wrote letters to eternity from that place. The inner citadel is not built quickly. It is built stone by stone, day by day, silence by silence. But every day you choose your own mind over the noise outside it. You lay another stone. You said nothing. And in that silence, something shifted. Not because you gave up, but because you finally understood what was worth your energy and what was not. The noise continues. It always will. But you are no longer inside it. You are somewhere quieter, somewhere stronger. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So guard them, feed them with intention, protect them with silence, and let the life you are building, in quiet, in focus, in full withdrawal from what does not serve you, speak for itself." Stoicism: master your mind, master your life.